I'm gonna show you the best recovery that you're not doing. We're gonna start right now. So if we're trying to improve our fitness or even our sports performance, there's some sense of just trying to improve our overall well-being or overall general existence. And if we can gain more lean muscle mass, obviously this is gonna help us with sports, this is gonna help us in life, it's gonna help us with longevity. And if we can improve our cognitive ability, this is gonna lead to better performance with technique. It's gonna lead to better performance in different sports. It's going to lead to more energy and more motivation throughout our entire life. We can use resistance training to lead to muscular adaptations through things like mechanical loading, metabolic stress, and even muscular breakdown. That's what I'm doing here with our Power Elastics, available at GarageStrength.com. Get that sweet pump. If we have hypertrophy in our muscles and in our tendons, and this has been shown to have greater functionality so that we have a healthier, longer life. So when we have more lean muscle mass, it kickstarts this reward system. We start to feel validated in our effort. We go to the gym, we do resistance-based training, we get a little bit healthier, then all of a sudden, we start to feel that our efforts are being warranted. When our efforts are being warranted, then we start to prioritize other things in our life. We start to eat a little bit better. We start to have better mental practices like meditation. We start to recover a little bit better. And that's what ends up improving our overall existence. So we have greater well-being and greater stress management. Oh, my hips are so tight. Oh my gosh. So what can impede on optimizing recovery? Oh, geez.
In comes sleep. How could we actually lose sleep? Maybe we're playing video games and then all of a sudden we realize it's 3:30 in the morning, but we've been beating the shit out of our friends, and then maybe it's time for us to go to bed. And then the next 2 to 3 days, we might struggle with our recovery. Or maybe you're someone who wakes up randomly in the middle of the night, and then you go to the bathroom or you go do something, you just check your phone. And then when you check your phone, you struggle to get back to sleep. And then you lay in bed, flailing your arms all over the place, super pissed off, really getting mad, and you can't get back to sleep. I do that sometimes. Or maybe you're someone who's traveled all over the world. You fly to the other side of the world, you get ready for bed, and then as you get ready for bed, you're really tired, you're really groggy, and then you lay in bed and you just stare at the ceiling, kicking your legs back and forth, trying to calm down, but then you channel your old self of getting really pissed off, getting really mad, flailing all over the place, and again, that endless cycle continues and you can't get sleep. Or maybe it's the day after a huge bender. You've been out all night. You wake up a little bit early. You've got cold sweats. Your knees hurt from all the booze that you've been drinking. Maybe you have significant remorse for some of the actions that you've done the previous night, and you just lay there thinking about all of those horrible decisions that you've made over the last 12 hours. And again, you struggle to fall back to sleep. And then the next 2, 3, 4 days of recovery is completely shot, mainly because of the bender and those poor decisions, but also because of that lack of sleep. Hell, maybe you're actually a responsible adult and you have a child, and your child wakes you up in the middle of the night and you have to go help them. You have to go change their sheets because they wet their bed and they're 7 years old and they still haven't learned how to hold their pee in throughout the entire night. Or maybe they're actually sick and they're coughing all over the place and you've got to rub their back and make sure that they feel better. And in turn, you sacrifice yourself. That's perfectly fine. Now you're a responsible adult. But this is real life. The quality of sleep is extremely important, and getting a good night's rest can help with recovery. It's important not only to improve your sleep, period, but also to improve your sleep quality. That's why I recommend today's video sponsor, Bear Mattress. Bear Mattress is a premium mattress that's designed to improve your quality of sleep, enhance your lifestyle, and your overall quality of existence. Bear's Sleep Quiz matches you perfectly to the best mattress that matches your body type and your overall sleep preferences. Over the last 3 weeks, we've been sleeping on a California King firmer mattress, and it's unbelievable how much better and deeper my sleep has gotten. Bear delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US. There's also a 120-night sleep trial to make sure that you can test that mattress out and ensure that you love it. Bear also provides a lifetime warranty along with financing options and flexible payment plans. Thank you, Bear Mattress, for sponsoring today's video. So make sure you go to www.bearmattress.com/GarageStrength, and at checkout, use the code GarageStrength for 25% 5% off your order. Now that we've told you the mattress that you need so that you can improve that sleep, let's get back to the video on sleep to optimize your recovery and performance.
Getting a poor night's sleep can have a tremendous negative impact on recovery and life. So over the last century, there's been a sleep loss of 1.5 hours per night across most developed nations. So that means 100 years ago, 150 years ago, people were sleeping about 8.5 to 9 hours every single night. And now we're only sleeping about 7 to 7.5 hours a night at the maximum. And so what this has done is it has led to poor stress management. This has led to a tremendous rise in blood pressure. It's also led to a rise in our societal diabetes, along with our food choices, and it's led to a cascade of other problems. Sleep is a really important regulator of metabolic processes. And in sleep-deprived people, there's a massive reduction in insulin sensitivity, and this leads to an even greater amount of weight gain, a greater amount of inflammation. And it also has a very large negative impact on the immune system. This can be seen in people like third shift workers who typically are sleep deprived or who have a very low quality of sleep. So what is sleep deprivation? Typically, sleep deprivation is going to be identified through two different ways. It's going to be about 6 hours of sleep or less, or 15 to 20% less sleep than what the individual is used to. So if I sleep 8 hours a night, about a 20% decrease would put me around 6 hours and 15 minutes, 6 hours and 30 minutes. I should get my calculator out to do this exact math, but that's going to lead to some issues around sleep deprivation. And this can occur through just traditional deprivation where I get to bed late, or I get to bed and I can't fall asleep, or I am actually asleep, but then I wake up prematurely based off of something happening. I have to go to the bathroom and I can't fall back asleep, or something happens outside, anything along these lines. You have a kid that wakes you up. So there can be deprivation from multiple different avenues. And so this takes us into sleep deprivation and cognitive ability. And you'll notice this when you have your first child. When I had my first kid, I remember being like, after 2 or 3 months, feeling like I was just in this constant fog because we weren't sleeping that well. Our kid was stuck in the hospital for 3 to 4 weeks, and that really led to a lot of sleep deprivation, a lot of extra stress, and poor cognitive ability. And this can have a negative impact on memory, also leads to riskier decision making. So when we analyze someone like doctors that leave after a very long shift, they typically have a vast majority of their car accidents when they're leaving work after a 24-hour shift. This is actually stuff that has been researched. This is also prevalent in third shifters. We'll see that when they're fatigued 3-4 days in a row and they're transitioning back to that third shift of sleep, when they're trying to sleep during the day, they end up making riskier decisions when they're driving. They end up making a little bit riskier decisions in their consumerism. So there's a lot of different research that shows that cognitive ability takes a huge plummet from sleep deprivation. And not only is this going to impact going outside and going driving, but it's going to impact your eating and what your choices are as far as food is concerned, and also your overall performance at your job or if you're an athlete. So Craven and McCartney even found that sleep deprivation can have a big negative impact on physical performance. When they were researching athletes and individuals and they were looking at displays of different strength qualities, let's think about anaerobic power. They saw a huge negative impact from those that were sleep deprived. They also found that basic endurance, so being able to run a little bit longer, being able to hold a certain level for a certain period of time, also had that big negative impact from sleep deprivation, along with just general strength. So if you think about anaerobic power as being 5 to 10 second bursts, they saw that big drop off, but they also saw that with absolute strength, where you might be doing 5 to 7 reps. That also had a huge negative impact when you're sleep deprived. And this can be used when you're an athlete who might be traveling, who's going across multiple different time zones. When you're a baseball team traveling to the other side of the country to play in a World Series, anything like that, we're gonna start to see that sleep deprivation can really impact not only our cognitive ability, not only our decision making, and not only our metabolic processes, but also our physical performance. And the hard part here is that this is life, right? If you're gonna be an elite athlete, if you're gonna be an elite, even business person, you're likely going to have to travel across time zones. You're likely going to be sleep deprived from stress at some point in your life. It's going to happen. So what can we end up doing when we're faced with this reality? And one of the things that Craven and McCartney did find is that when the physical performance was actually performed earlier in the day, so earlier in the morning. So if we arrive someone, we fly across the world, we go to Uzbekistan, this is a real life thing. One of the things that happened, we went to Uzbekistan, but when we had our morning training sessions earlier in the day, I noticed that everybody was lifting a little bit better. And this is actually confirmed in that Craven and McCartney study that they saw if you trained earlier in the morning, there was much less negative impact from that sleep deprivation. And so part of this also means that you have to prepare for sleep properly. If you're preparing for sleep properly, that's gonna prevent some of that sleep deprivation. And if you're preparing for sleep, you should be preparing for that next day and what other stressors might have a negative impact. You know, if you're going to work or something along these lines, you might be able to see hurdles and prepare ahead of time to avoid those hurdles to then optimize your overall performance. So if you're not prioritizing your sleep, you're simply ruining your chance to optimize your performance in sports and in general fitness. People always say that it's hard to sleep 8 hours. Well, it might be hard to sleep 8 hours, but if you have the lifestyle that allows you to sleep 8 hours, then you owe it to yourself to prepare for bed and to get to bed on time so that you can recover and handle that inflammation as well as possible. Some tips that you can use is you can get off your phone, you can avoid computers, avoid blue light after 8:30, 9 o'clock. You can use candles instead of your normal incandescent lights or fluorescent lights, and trust me, this works phenomenally. It really helps you lower that mood and get ready for bed. This leads to a drastic improvement in your quality of sleep and thus an improvement in your recovery, and your adaptations then improved and they're magnified from that training stimulus that hopefully you're receiving from our brand new app, Peak Strength, that we put together to help you become a freak athlete.
So how can we improve our sleep recovery and our sleep preparation? And a lot of this information, I'm going to give you 3 different resources. First one, my Olympic champion coach, Dr. Anatoly Bondarchuk, he had a lot of, old wives' tales or maybe old Soviet Union tales on how to actually improve sleep and recovery. Also, listening to podcasts from Andrew Huberman, and then finally, I had multiple different email chains from 2018 to 2020 with sleep scientist Dr. Stephen Lockley, and he's a professor at Harvard. He also wrote an entire book all on sleep, and he has an app called Time Shifter. So Dr. Lockley and I went back and forth discussing how to optimize traveling across different time zones, how to optimize our sleep with all of our different athletes on here, and he played a pivotal role in all of our athletes' performance at the Tokyo Olympics. So those first 2 key aspects is going to be 1, get outside for 10 to 15 minutes and look at the sun. Don't look directly at it, but try to absorb that sunlight without sunglasses on. So you can walk throughout the streets, you can walk throughout a yard, you can just be outside and try to get those sun rays. This is really, really important. This is something that Stephen Lockley said. This is really, really important even when you're traveling across time zones because it helps shift that circadian rhythm. It's also really important to do on a daily basis. If you do it with sunglasses on, it can actually block some of those UV rays, which can then trigger your circadian rhythm. So you want to make sure you don't have those sunglasses on. That next key tip is going to be challenge yourself mentally when you first wake up. So get up, start to get moving, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, do whatever else you want to do, but then do some type of cognitive challenging drill. For me recently, it's been trying to do my Spanish work, learning that language earlier in the morning. This helps me get my brain rolling. I haven't consumed any caffeine yet. All I'm trying to do is some type of cognitive challenge earlier in the day. The next key tip is wait 90 to 120 minutes to have caffeine. And again, this is one of those key aspects behind Stephen Lockley's theory around sleeping is that when you're traveling across multiple time zones, it's important to use caffeine at specific times. Same thing on a regular basis. If you're in your specific area of comfort and you're trying to improve your sleep quality, if you wait 90 to 120 minutes to have that caffeine, now you're not going to have that afternoon crash that you might have if you had that caffeine earlier in the day. And there is actually some physiological mechanisms that prove out that this is actually correct based off of adenosine and what adenosine receptors do with caffeine that's consumed earlier in the day. And the other backside of this is that you shouldn't have caffeine after 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Because of the half-life, it could still have an impact on your overall sleep quality. That next key factor, and this is going to be based off of some of the research from Craven and McCartney, is that we should try to exercise a little bit earlier in the day. If we have a little bit more exercise earlier in the day, that's going to help us get rolling pretty well, and that's going to help with our overall general fitness. The next key aspect, this is going to be taken directly from Andrew Huberman, is practicing something like yoga nidra. Okay, so if you can do yoga nidra, that's going to help with that deep relaxation. And this also goes back to some of the stuff from Dr. B. Dr. B would also say, hey, try to do some meditation, try to do some prayer, whatever you believe in. But yoga nidra, prayer, meditation, sometime in the early afternoon is also going to help with that circadian rhythm. It's also going to help with that stress management, which will lead to better sleep quality. Another recommendation, minimize alcohol 100%. Alcohol can totally ruin your circadian rhythm. Along with that, marijuana. I would avoid marijuana close to bedtime. You know, if you have to do it in the middle of the day, but do it to a minimal amount. Also, don't eat a ton of food close to bed. Avoid eating about 2 hours prior to bedtime. Eating can raise your body temperature, and that could, in theory, have a negative impact on your overall sleep. Another thing that you can do is you can even meditate, pray. You can do another round of yoga nidra close to bed, almost immediately before bed. And you can do this without having the lights on. You can use candles or you can use red lights. And this is something I've wanted to experiment with myself is, can my family go a week without using lights at bedtime? Can my family go a week without using lights after 7 o'clock? Is this a cool challenge that maybe we should make a YouTube video for? Two more aspects directly from that email chain with Stephen Lockley are that, hey, if you're traveling and you need to get sleep, you need to sleep bank. Sleep banking does work, but you also need to, when you're trying to sleep bank ahead of time or on the back end, if you're trying to get to sleep, make sure that you avoid cell phones about an hour before bedtime, because that can stimulate your brain a little bit more and then you start to stay more awake. Same thing with the TV. And then on top of that, try to sleep in a cooler room. Try to make sure that the temperature's 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. And the room should be extremely dark. And if you have those covers, that can also help improve that quality of sleep. And then the most important thing is to track your overall feeling and habits. If you look at it and say, okay, I did this habit, I did this for 12 to 20 days, and this is how I feel. This is how I've recovered. This is how I felt that impact. That way, when you put things into your habits, you can see if they have a positive or a negative benefit. A lot of people need specific rest times, a specific program based off of their own needs. And that's exactly what we did inside of our app, Peak Strength. Inside of the app, we provide specific accountability around rest times, and we provide a specific program based off of your needs. When you pick up the app, you get 7 free days of training, and this can be done for over 35 different sports. So head over to peakstrength.app or the Google Play Store or the Apple Store and pick up Peak Strength today. And if you're prepping for bedtime and you want to improve those brain gains, make sure you listen to our podcast, the Masters of Sport podcast, where we dive deep into different things around fitness and sports performance. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.